Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha Farbach. Germany is heading towards a potentially historic vote on September 6th, with the far-right AfD polling above 40% in the East German state of Saxony-Anhalt, and its candidate, Ulrich Sigmund, potentially within reach of becoming Germany's first AfD state premier. Now, the stakes stretch beyond the state's borders and neighboring Poland. Foreign Minister Sikorski has warned of serious economic consequences of AfD proposals such as Germany leaving the Schengen area were ever pursued nationally. Now, joining us is Knut Abraham, coordinator for German-Polish Intersocietal and cross-border cooperation. Good to have you back with us.
Good morning from Germany.
So let's go to East Germany, Saxony-Anhalt. Now, this is a relatively small state, around 2 million people. Now, why, in your mind, I mean, you represent also from the CDU, the Christian Democrats, why has this message of the AfD been so popular there? I mean, almost well over 40%, it seems, versus the around 20% for the CDU.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest challenge is that many people have lost confidence in the capabilities of the established parties here in Germany to tackle the problems, to show a way forward. And this is what is on the table for the forthcoming week. It's only 1 week to go, and to revert the tendencies we see. The AfD is, with their methods and ideas, a very populist, right-wing extremist party, with which we as Christian Democrats have nothing in common. I understand the worries in the European neighborhood. It would be a very bad sign if the AfD takes the position of Prime Minister in Magdeburg.
Mm-hmm. So let's also give a bit of context here. Let's say in this scenario that the AfD does get the most percentage points. Now, let's assume the 40%. If they do have that kind of number, if they do govern on their own, this would be the first time the AfD, the far right, would get to such a state level. But what can that realistically do? What can the AfD do in that state? What are the limitations of their impact? I mean, we're looking at education policy further. Where does their influence potentially go?
Well, the AfD is, of course, a highly xenophobic, Islamophobic party, which will try to mainly symbolically go against migrants and pretend to take measures to increase deportations and to avoid additional influx of migrants. That would be a point. The second is the identity questions. So many people feel irritated by the migrants, fearing a loss of national identity. So it would mean probably measures to foster national identity, putting flags everywhere, and ideas like that. It would also mean to go against the churches. The churches are seen by the AfD as a highly left-wing center, and so the AfD is clearly anti-church oriented. Thirdly, it would mean changes, and this is one of the main competences of the German federal states in the field of education. The idea of the AfD is to foster, to re-engage in students' exchange with Russia. It would mean anti-European rhetorics, and that would very much harm not only Saxony-Anhalt, but all of Germany in Europe.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, also, just to be clear, if the AfD does govern at this state level, they cannot change asylum law, they cannot change foreign policy. This is something they cannot do.
No. No, but what they are doing and what they are pretending to do is setting a trend, and bringing their positions forward to continue on the path of reparation of relations between Germany and Russia, for example. So for us, it is simply excluded to cooperate with the AfD. They are clearly saying that the CDU is the main enemy of themselves, and so there is no way of cooperation. And this is explicitly true. Beside the point of the so-called firewall, we have politically nothing in common with them, but of course it's democracy, and one would have to live with that if the voters really decide to vote for AfD. But we have still a week to go, and we are fighting very much to make that not happen.
Let's also talk about the man who is leading and potentially would be the state premier for the AfD, Mr. Ulrich Sigmund. Tell us a bit about who he is politically, and also we've been hearing that there are some very closely tied four men close to his circle who have apparently members of a banned neo-Nazi youth organization. They're reportedly working close to him. So first of all, tell us a bit about him and what this also means about people who fear the AfD.
He is clearly the friendly face of a right-wing extremist party. He is a good-looking guy. He has high rhetoric skills, and he is, all in all, a very gifted populist. But we should look deeper, and then indeed we see worrying signals. People in the leadership of AfD Saxony-Anhalt have their roots in neo-Nazi circles. There are people who are suspicious for having conducted not so sober operations, meaning that there is a certain feeling of corruption around them because they were employing relatives into their parliamentary offices. So one has to take a deeper look to look who he is. The point is that he is quite attractive as a politician, and his motto is anything is possible. So he really combines voters from everywhere and is promising everything. And that, together with his rhetoric skills, make him quite a dangerous competitor to the current government in Magdeburg.
And also, if we're looking at, there are also some reports, increasingly, I think there will be many rallies on that day, on the weekend. I mean, the vote is going to be on Sunday the 6th. But the police have already warned and have seen that there's been a spike already and certain types of violence associated with the AfD and also the left. I mean, how concerned are you that there would be instances of, let's say, disruption, or how bad can this get if we're looking at the actual day of the vote? How is this going to look like on the ground?
Well, it is, of course, very good when and if police prepares for developments we all would not like to see. Politically, it's interesting that the two extremist sides, they need each other. So if there is a parliamentary win by the AfD, the protests will spark by left-wing extremists. And if the AfD feels somehow betrayed of any victory or so, it will be the right-wing extremists on the streets. And we have seen that before in the Weimar Republic. And the police and the authorities have to do everything to avoid a scenario as you have described. But we have to be prepared, and that is good.
And also one scenario is that, I mean, this is a regional election. That means that there'll be policy limited for state government education, as you already mentioned, some other policy. But then this also gives representation then to the upper house, to the Bundesrat in Berlin. So if that does happen, what does that mean for lawmaking in Germany? How much of a disruption could maybe one representative from out of 16 German states be for that process?
Saxony-Anhalt is, of course, one of the smaller states. You've mentioned its population of about 2 million. So that would not really change the game. But the interesting point is that an AfD government would add to a certain normalization of this political force in the German political theater. But one representation of AfD in the Bundesrat will not change the constitutional reality in Germany. But it's a sign of warning, and let them be isolated later. But we have to take this very serious, and we have to fight for the voters until the ballot boxes are closing. So it's a huge challenge for the democratic center of Germany to avoid that extremists, right-wing extremists, come back slowly to power in Germany.
And just looking at the day after, let's say, we're looking at certain polling, it says anywhere between 42%. I mean, if they can't secure that, what about the day after when there is no clear majority? What happens then?
Well, the most likely scenario is that there would be a majority, a slim majority, by non-AfD parties. For the CDU, it is a difficult scenario because it means that the current government could continue as a minority government tolerated by the left-wing extremists. And that is a very uncomfortable situation for the CDU, which has a clear decision not to cooperate with right and left-wing extremists. So that puts us in a very difficult position between the two extremist sides. But we have to see how to tackle the situation when the day comes. But very difficult scenario.
Right, and it's going to be an election which isn't just focused on by Germany, but also by its neighbors as we look at that election coming up on the 6th of September. Look, we'll have to close it there. Thank you so much for that. Always a pleasure having you. Knut Abraham there, the coordinator for the German-Polish Intersocietal and Cross-Border Cooperation. Thank you.
Very welcome. All the best. Bye-bye.
And thank you for watching World Talks, but do stay right here on TVP World for more. Goodbye.